Alright, run for a good one here today. Forgot I actually got new GPU, so I can actually run OBS Studio now. I've heard good things about it, but we're going to find out. I think I've got the audio and video set up for the proper area. This is a horribly awkward play area to play Machinecraft in for me, but considering how consistent it would be for recording, for now it's pretty good. Right, so this is a request video one of the viewers made asking for a mouse-based plane movement system. Now, learning how to build one is certainly a bit of a chore, but I think it's entirely possible to go for one I've actually made. Yeah, that's what I want to say. And this is, of course, mouse-based, if I recall correctly. Strange. I was pretty sure it was originally. Huh. Let's go explore around my directories a little bit, make sure I have the right one loaded. Is that Planecraft? Oh, Planecraft V2. There we are. That's probably the mouse one. Damn straight. Alright, great. So, we're going to take this thing for a spin and make sure that the function is up to par. Probably still has all the same nonsense as the old one. Alright, punch in gear 3, and in theory it should follow the mouse. And we roll with E and Q, and we can roll in any fashion we so wish. But holding E and Q will cause it to level out. The level out feature is totally busted on this one. I would have to actually modify that very quickly here. I suspect it might have been broken though. Oh, but holding X makes everything level out actually, so that's pretty interesting. Of course, there are many problems with the use of tractors and thrusters. In fact, let me make sure I haven't messed anything up here. Modifying the underscore weight of the machine. Oh yeah, that's no biggie. Okay, that's good. Because recently there were some changes made to the way thrusters and trackers work in a way that makes thruster-tracker combos completely and utterly useless in all applications whatsoever. By recently, I mean a couple months ago, because that's the most recent update. Last I checked, I have checked in a couple times, but for now this seems to work. We'll have to figure out what the hell's the difference between the two different roll functions. Wow, actually they do about the same thing. Fascinating. Oh, interesting. Level roll. Oh wow, this is horrible. Yeah, it's supposed to be level R, not optics. I guess that was a slip up, which should now be corrected in the machine. Let's do a quick test, make sure it's what we have. Whoosh, whoosh. What was that? Pretty evenly. Right, there's not actually any weapons on this, but if you wanted to, you could probably mount weapons on this. But I suspect, no, there's not really much of an advantage to rolling and pitching. That's what was on my manual control playing tutorial, which was its own gimmick of sorts. You could also, of course, adjust the tracker slightly so they calibrate further for the point of aim in optics mode. And actually, I'm pretty sure the camera's off target. But the bare basics of how this is working are relative. Oh wow, yeah, that's about 200 too high. Let's see if that'll fix it real quick. Because I'm going to get the mechanics in just a minute. Oh wow, that's too low. Boy. Right. Right, so if the camera is too close to the body of the craft at the moment, so if you duplicate this, you may have the same problem. It may actually, quite simply, just cause the camera to yank down on the plane's movement anytime you're not looking sufficiently upward. Right now, if I look any lower than this, I think I'll probably start descending. It's looking pretty good for the most part. It seems that doing the roll and pitch combo is pretty weird for elevation, so I wouldn't do that. That's why the other plane for manual controls is actually superior. But if you want more force, you could always just add more trackers and nonsense like that. Right, so how this works. First things first, let's start with the core. That's a good, friendly thing to start off on. It's always very familiar, and it makes a lot of sense for most things. So the core cannot be moved directly as a body. Any rotators, anything like that, will always attempt to move everything but the core in its initial movements. However, there are a couple ways you can sometimes induce Newtonian reactions to the core body. Or, if you're very clever and just don't want to do any complex work at all, you can just straight up make everything controlled by trackers. You can track the main body. It's weird and janky as hell, but you can do it. So, starting from our basic core, we have some lamps here to indicate gears and turbo. Totally ignore those. Absolutely optional as hell. They're just there to help you know what gears are on or off. Because I decided to go to 3-gear mode for better steering on this. Here's this coupler here is being pressed into the center of the body. This is pretty single couplers, I believe. So it's definitely the open wall dade versus the proper use of couplers. But plowing through this, we can see that it connects to two bodies. One of them is a giant pile of angry thrusters. This is the core of how our operation is. We have gear 1, 2, and 3. On these ones, marked with green arrows, we have a turbo with an interval 12, max event, 100 event, which will make the afterburner work for as long as it's held and automatically refire, so you don't need to spam F, and you don't need to toggle F. It's very in the moment, and I find to be the best combination. These arrows are, of course, just chassis blocks I've sculpted in a very particular manner. And they're attached to this weird-ass thing right here. What is this? This is nothing, actually. I'm pretty sure this doesn't even move. This was going to be the original method of steering, but this is now entirely optional. So if we wanted, actually just rip this out, slap in this, call it a day. Functionally indistinguishable now. This isn't even used. This is going to be the original turning apparatus in the V1 graph that was based on controls. It is no longer the case. So, how does this... Oh, okay, so we know that it rolls using E and Q, and levels out roll with E and Q. It can also be leveled out with all axes with X, but that probably doesn't do anything on the tracker-based model. Anyways, what else we can say is that there are 3 axes: pitch, yaw, and roll. Pitch is up and down. Yeah, it's easy to think of it like that. You know, it's like a higher pitch or lower pitch on a sound. It's always in terms of height. For yaw, it is left to right. I don't have any good trick for remembering yaw other than it's not roll and it's not pitch. And roll is, of course, roll. You know, if you do a barrel roll in a plane, you are rolling. It's, you know, it's pretty obvious. I would like to think. I can't really fundamentally describe it, but for actually pointing the face left and right and not just rolling it, you're going to want yaw, but you're also going to want pitch. Roll is going to be automatic because I've never found a combination of trackers that can emulate roll on a mouse, and I'm pretty damn sure that ain't a coincidence. I've written my fair share of 3D code, not a lot of it. I don't know about trigonometry either, but what I do know is there are 2 ways to represent a point of rotation. You can represent it in 3 axes of rotation, pitch, yaw, and roll, or you can represent it as a term of numbers, like a point on a grid, which we would call a vector. And vectors in most game engines are just scaled down to being no larger than 1 and no smaller than 0. So there's a scale of 1 to 100, or sorry, 0 to 100% on how much one axis of a grid encompasses the direction. And the direction would be achieved if you want to make it a rotator, let's say. You would take the 3D point on the grid, and you would make an arrow pointing from the center of the grid at 0, 0, 0 to the 3D point you've placed. And whatever the heck direction that arrow is pointing is now the rotator equivalent. I'll save you a lot of mathematical work and doodling and just tell you right now, there is no way to represent roll in a vector, even though you can represent it in a rotator. So, assuming that trackers are doing some sort of calculation based on a vector, there is no way they can ever properly track mouse movement with roll. I think they can try, but it basically just slacks off and falls over all the time, and it's extremely awkward. That's just kind of a mathematical limitation for how trackers were implemented. Quite frankly, vectors were just a smart thing to do. So, rolling will have to be manual. That's my conclusion. If you didn't understand this rant, ignored completely. It is irrelevant as can be. I don't know how else to put it. So, pitch and yaw. And boy, I'm making this one a long one, aren't I? So for pitch, we have this giant pile of trackers here with hinges here. It's pretty simple. Trackers are always on. Neutral 0, spring 100. That spring increases their output strength to be the highest they can muster. This will increase energy cost, but stacking up a million trackers already does that, so if you can not guess already, you require a shitload of force to be able to pitch a plane. And even then, it responds pretty slowly, so have fun with that. Now here, we have some weird nonsense. These hinges have blank events with -4 and +4. This is the manual control vent, which has been since removed from the control directory. We have optics, which apparently makes pitch do something, which is entirely irrelevant, it turns out. And level all makes it do something. The difference is, I think level all... Actually, level all does absolutely nothing, I can tell you for a fact. Because otherwise, and this is fun, level all would be stopping these trackers, so the trackers wouldn't override any events on this. So in conclusion, screw this thing. You don't need to change a damn thing on this hinge. I have spring and damper, but I can almost guarantee you they do nothing on this hinge. You can try it and play around with it if you want, but it really doesn't make a difference if I am not mistaken. So yeah, just neutral 0, spring 100. Lots of hinges, all parallel to each other, so they can all flex up and down, and all mounted on a compression spring or a compression piston. So for roll, seeing how this is the center of the body represented here, and then on top of that we have the roll apparatus, which has roll left -12, roll right -12, roll left 12, and the inverse on this one, just so you know, that's positive for R, negative for L on the second one, all the way around for the first one. Front and back, you should think of these. And level all / level roll, make it do 0, which, seeing how these are actually speed type rotators, 0 should probably make it even out to a 0-degree angle. I'm not sure if that's always how it works, but I want to say that's how it works. I am indeed rusty. So, the core has stuff roll around it. Then it has the pitch aim up and down, which aims the thrusters, which will cause the craft to move with it and inevitably float up or down accordingly. Actually, I don't think that encompasses the thrusters. No, it doesn't. What it does encompass, though, is the anti-gravity splint, which we'll get to in a moment. So, finally, for yaw, we have just these rotators, all parallel, not interfering with each other, but none of them can actually move, which is important for making a gyroscope. And this is an automatic gyroscope using neutral 0 and spring 80 to control yaw. You could actually increase the spring on these to 100. I don't know why I didn't. I probably thought it was overkill. Don't know if I trust that conclusion today. But on top of this giant pile of assembly, I've also compressed in a scope, which is compression, rotator, compression, tracker, compression, hinge, compression, tracker, compression, camera. Basically, all it does is it makes this rotator, this tracker, this hinge, this tracker, and this scope all compress into the center of this one block. So it is a self-contained 1x1 block, non-colliding apparatus for viewing things through a first person. Seems they actually don't reset anything on these camera points. This could actually throw off your balance. Oh wait, actually it is fine because this is based on the body of the craft. So I think it evens out between the two, but it's a pretty janky setup if you can't tell. And optics is free, so you can scroll in and out to change the zoom level, which is usually like the combat meta. Default zoom is pretty good. If you have any problems, you can just scroll a little bit mid-combat. Not a big deal. You can't use scroll for anything else. I used to scroll wheel for scrolling up and down, so there's no reason not to. Like, honestly. And finally, the AGD graft. This is put on the end of the pitch apparatus. And it's on the same level as the roll apparatus. And you're thinking, why the hell is that? Well, don't worry. Every single one of these AGDs, for the most part, overall it has a positive mass. So we have a weight of about 149, and we have plus 146 on these two AGDs. This is to negate the weight, so it doesn't fall. Obviously, this is slightly flawed, so we're going to throw in 3 more units. Even that probably won't be fully accurate. There are complexities to how this all works. Actually, I don't know if we were floating last time, but whatever. And here on the upper frame, we have 100 out the ass. These events have been scrapped, so I don't think they will ever trigger. But these neutral 100s, we have 12. 3 on each corner of these 4 corners. On the bottom, we have minus 100. Exact same nonsense. These are also wiped, so don't worry about these either. And all in all, what this does is it makes the craft attempt to rise upward relative to the craft and fall downward. Another way to put it, even if the entire body cannot be truly rotated, you can rotate the frame, and then the frame will use gravity to pull the core body upwards inalienably, which is actually a really clever workaround. You might be able to get this without anti-gravity as well, but this has so many balance functions built into the mouse function. It's just a really nice apparatus. It's just a shame it's monstrously freaking inefficient. That being said, yeah, that's the main gist of it. So let's see. Currently, our weight is set a little low. Yeah, we're falling about 1 kilometer an hour. And balancing your gravity is an important step that will pretty much always take forever. This will probably now rise about 1 kilometer. It's rising it up to 10. Alright, that's fun. So, let's see. Still too much. We have 2 off this. Oh, it's 149.6. Ah, that explains it. Right, now we are incredibly slowly rising. This is about the closest you're going to get without doing something to change your actual physical weight. But yeah, that's our plane. It rolls, it yaws, it pitches, and it has a scope. So it has all the main things you would want for first-person piloting, even if it isn't totally balanced in all attributes. I have attempted to make battle versions of these, but planes are kind of lame. I'd say they are very lightweight in design. They can only fire in one direction while steering in another. So either you have to have a really good sense of gunnery and piloting at the same time, which is hard to not crash into things at high speeds, or you kind of just only hit things in certain strafing runs, and the other 75% of your flight pattern will be filled with getting filled full of lead. If you can run using an afterburner, you might be able to reduce how much damage you're taking, but all in all, the actual time you spend in combat is minimal. And your mobility isn't sharp enough in advance to really make up for it. That's just kind of, I think, the sad nature of planes. I experimented with them extensively, but it's kind of just been all I've been able to conclude. I think I did make the Helios mech a while back, which is on the workshop theoretically. And that guy, long story short, generally has a plane mode, which is for mobility and strafing runs when the enemy's distracted. And flying around for fast travel. But also sports a mech mode, with pretty much the best of both worlds for those two. I don't know, as far as I can tell, there's no better way to execute a plane concept. And it meets all the essentials, and it's small enough to not be painfully obvious to shoot, and it has shields in case it is getting shot at. So, if planes are not working out for you, consider checking that out, or building something somewhere along the lines. I don't know. You could always try to make your own. Not going to stop you, but Transformers tend to be complex. Anyways, that is all I have for this plane. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you can build something based off of this. It's relatively simple, being a plane graft, as it's called. It was a proof of concept for the control system. Yeah, until next time, WCCC, signing out.